And we're live here with SampleServe Masterclass Wednesdays. Thank you for joining us. I hope you're having a great day. I am Joshua Paul with SampleServe, product manager here, and I have Russell Schindler, the CEO of SampleServe. Say hi, Russell.
Hello.
So what we like to do here on these Wednesdays is we like to bring on experts from the environmental industry. We like to talk about our platform. We talk about our new features and how the industry is going in general. We usually talk about our Sample ENV platform. This is for environmental professionals. It's a multi-tenant platform. It's got project management tools for setting up, planning projects, field app for data collection, lab solutions, as well as graphics and reporting functionality as well. And we're in the middle of a 4-part series where we're talking about the process of starting an account on our SampleServe platform. Setting up projects, setting up sample locations, sampling events, adding your team, creating a work scope, sending that to the field app, and then collecting data. And that's as far as we've got. We're part 3 of 4. So we last week we covered the data collection part, and this week we're going to cover transferring that data to the laboratory, as well as generating that COC and how the laboratory can manipulate and manage that information at the laboratory. So let's head over to our platform here. And I just want to give everybody just a quick update on what we did last time. We generated this chain of, this scope of work here. And last time we did it so that it's an automatically reoccurring event. And we wanted it to happen, I think it was 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. So in the meantime, since this whole thing's been going on, these sampling events have been auto-generating in the platform. So we have one for, the 12th, the 13th, the 14th. Skip the weekend, and now we're on the 17th, 18th, and today is the 19th. So we're going to be sampling real quickly this 19th event, and then we're going to be able to generate a chain, and then we can, here's Russell's little automated chat here that shows up in the platform. I like that. It says, hey, 2 weeks have passed on your new account. Can you believe it?
So just to kind of catch everybody up, so you obviously, because this is not a real project, you were not collecting those samples, but had you, they would have started out as where it says in progress, the orange. And then once you had done those, they would change to complete, and they would actually disappear from that screen. You can recollect them by clicking that completed checkbox there where you're just hovering over. So you can still access the older ones, but they'll disappear just to kind of keep the screen looking cleaner and neat.
Yeah, obviously I'm not going in every day and collecting fake samples for no reason.
Right.
So these are just
built
up.
I just want to catch everybody up to kind of why you're skipping to the middle of that list.
Yeah, normally these would be gone because these samples have been collected and this work scope is done and over with. You'd be able to filter through the completed. So we're just going to pretend like, we've been collecting these every day. We're going to skip right to the 219, and I'll show you on the field app what that looks like. It's going to show you all my sample events here. So I'm going to my screencast here. This is my field app. It's casting the screen. You can see I got 3 tabs here: downloaded, assigned, and all. Assigned is going to be, you can assign a specific sampler so that when they log into the field app, they'll know everything that's assigned to them. Now, I didn't assign it specifically to myself, but I can still access it under the All tab. So the All tab is going to show all the sampling events for all the projects that I'm connected to, even if I'm not assigned to them. So let's scroll down here. Normally, all of these would be gone, except for the ones that haven't been collected. So technically, if I was using this correctly, it would just show the February 19th, the 20th, and the 21st, because we generate 3 days ahead of the sampling events that are going to be happening in the future. So you would just have the next one up, February 19th. You're going to go out in the field. You're going to go out in your drinking water plant, wastewater plant, wherever you're at. You're going to download this to your tablet here, and you're going to enter here. And, we're covering the lab today. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run through this sample real quick. We're just going to pretend that we collected some field data here. I'm going to sign my name, take a selfie.
He's going to print out the labels and act like he's put them on the bottle already, and then generate that chain of custody.
Yeah. So as you can see here, I got one label printed for my bottle. Label came out here. It's got the name on it. It's got the bottle type. It's got all the information relevant on there.
And then once he's got all that done, he's generated that chain of custody. He's actually going to switch apps. He's going to go to the lab app, which a lab would be using to receive those samples. and then that's kind of where today's demonstration is really going to focus, is on the lab app.
So I have my 2 samples in custody that I've collected. I'm going to hit the custody button in the top right, select my 2 samples that I have here, and we're going to transfer this to the laboratory. I'm going to sign my name, take a selfie, and this is the signature and selfie that'll show up directly on the chain of custody. So what it's going to do now, it's going to give me the option to generate this custody seal. See, there's a little button up here on the custody seal. I'm going to tap that. And what it's going to do is going to give me an option to print a custody seal that I can throw on my cooler if I need. If I got more than one cooler, I can add more custody seals to this. I'm going to print this custody seal on my printer here. So now this pops out. It's got a QR code on there, and that's going to be what we're going to use in the lab app to pull up our chain of custody when we're pretending that the samples have arrived at the laboratory. I can also share this chain through an email, and I can download it to my tablet as well and print this chain if I'm connected to a printer as well.
And one other feature or a detail I'll add here is that the lab, although that's just a demo lab that we're using here, but if it were a real lab, they would already have that file, that completed chain of custody, in their portal. So they would be able to actually see that chain of custody is coming in, and then they'd be able to use that to look to see if they got a rush sample, something like that.
And we can head over to the lab portal after we accept this chain on the lab app. So now I'm sharing the lab app. This is a mobile app available on the Play Store. And what we're going to do is we're going to show you, this is a list of all the projects that are connected to the lab app. So if you're a real lab, this list would be real life projects, sampling projects, sites that your clients are sampling at. And it'd be a list here. It'd be a long list. The ones that just were generated are going to be at the top. You can see 2/19/2025 here. This is the project that we just created a chain of custody for. Now I can click into this right now if I want to access that chain. But what's a lot easier, because the cooler that's coming in right now isn't going to be the project that's right at the top of the list all the time, right?
And it tells you how many samples are on there. Is that correct?
It's going to be 0 of 2 verified, so it's going to say how many
samples. Yep.
Yeah. So what I'm actually going to do is, this is a lot easier than scrolling through this list to find the project, the chain that's coming in. You're going to have to connect the name to what it says on the sticker and everything. What's a lot easier is just hit this custody seal scan button at the bottom left here. So I'm going to hit this scan button. And what it's going to do is it's going to scan that custody seal. This is on the outside of the cooler, right? You haven't even opened the cooler yet. So I just scanned the outside of that cooler now, and the chain has just showed up on my lab app here. Now, all the top information is going to be up here. We didn't fill any of this information out, but this is going to have like invoice information, project information, lab contact, turnaround time. It's going to have everything on a typical chain that goes on the top of your chain here. And at the bottom here are my 2 samples that I have. Now I can click into these manually if I'd like. And if I have multiple bottles associated with this sample, they'd be listed here. I can mark them in this menu here. If I've received them missing or broken, I can mark their status manually here if I'd like to. But what we can also do is that I printed out 2 bottle labels in the field, and I have these QR codes. And these QR codes are separate from the label itself. They're little squares that you can throw on the top of your bottle labels here. Now let's just pretend that I did have some bottles here and I threw those QR codes on the top of the bottle. And what I can do is I'm going to hit this scan button. I'm skipping a step right now, but I just want to show you how I can scan these bottles. So I'm going to hit the scan button. Doesn't really matter which order you go in.
All bottles are scanned.
You hear that? All bottles are scanned. So it just recognized that, hey, these are the 2 QR codes that are associated with those 2 bottles. Those QR codes are individual every single time to each bottle that you've ever labeled.
Ever. So if you have 3 VOAs for one sample, all 3 bottles have a unique ID to it.
Mm-hmm. And the nice thing is laboratories can carry that QR code and that number that's associated with that individual bottle. If they want to, they can carry that number on through the lab process, from LIM system. They can carry that number. We can do whatever they want with it. And so now you can see that both these samples have turned green because it recognizes that you have both bottles in hand. And now let's accept the chain here. So we're going to do the same process that the person did in the field. I'm going to accept here, and you're going to do a signature. You're going to take a selfie. And now that signature and selfie is going to be date and time stamped as well, just like the person in the field did. And it's going to go directly on your chain. What we can also do is we can have a customized checklist for drinking water. I don't think this lab has a checklist associated with drinking water, but what you can do is you can customize a checklist. You can collect any kind of information that a lab typically has for their checklist. A lot of people do this on paper right now. It's already on like a customized chain that has, is it on ice? What are other things that labs like to know when they have samples arriving?
Yeah, temperature, seals intact, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, or like the pressure of a soil vapor canister or something like that.
Yep.
You write any kind of checklist that you want to, any kind of data that you want to document when this sample arrives. You can customize that checklist, fill it out on here, and all that information will be transferred along with the COC as well. Now I can share this information externally. I can hit the share button up on the top right. Now I can share this file as a PDF and as a JSON. And I can do that by just hitting the share button. And there's going to be all kinds of sharing options built into your tablet. You can either share, you can either copy this link right here and you can send it anywhere you like. Whoever clicks on this link is going to have access to that information. And I can also email this link as well. So I'm just going to email this link to myself real quick. You can email it back to the client at the same time, but the client's already going to have access to this completed chain on their platform because it updates on their side of the platform automatically. They can go into the platform and download that chain.
Yeah,
well,
if they have permission to that project, they can view that chain of custody as soon as it's completed.
Yeah. So let's go back into the sampler side of the project management tool here. And you can see this link has been updated here. This is a chain, and it says Joshua Paul has transferred custody to Joshua Paul. In real life, that'd be two different names because, the sampler is usually not the guy that works at the lab at the same time. So let's just open up this chain, see what it looks like. It's going to show my samples that I collected here. Further down, it's going to show the sample names that I've collected here. This is my collection history. And then this is my transfer of me, my signature and selfie, my date and timestamp, GPS coordinates, where I was when this happened, and then the person at the lab, their signature, selfie, date and timestamp, and where they were when this happened. Now, obviously, it'd be two different selfies and signatures because it'd be two different people doing two different jobs. That's why we call it a multi-tenant platform, because it has different aspects of each platform has different uses for different types of people that have different access.
And if the lab wasn't using the lab app, which most labs actually don't use this yet, but more and more are using it all the time, they can actually print that out and actually receive it on paper.
Yeah, they can see. So there's areas for them to sign right there if they'd want to do that. But I mean, I just had this, I just signed my name and documented this, and it was already digital. So I don't have to scan this again.
Yeah.
It already came in digitally. I can sign it digitally, and I can store it and transfer it digitally as well.
It's definitely the simplest paperless way to go.
Right.
But we have an option is what I'm giving you. Yeah.
Right. So now the project manager in the engineering sampling firm has access to this COC in many ways. They can access it on their tablets. They can access it on the project management tool. And there's multiple ways for the lab to access that COC as well. So let's head over to the lab portal for the labs. So I'm going to bring this tab over here. And this is what we call the lab portal. We were using our demonstration laboratory here. So I'm just going to search in and find that project that we were using. I called it Masterclass project, I think. Yeah, here it is. So all those lists of projects that you saw earlier are all the projects that are using the demo lab as their lab. You can use the demo lab for anything because you can customize your test list that you'd like. You can add any test to this, and it'll be just on your workspace, and you can add that to your sampling work scopes so that you can customize anything that you want to test in the field, send that on your chain of custody, and it'll show up on the bottle label as well. But let's go into this project here, and there's a couple options for the laboratory to work with for their clients. What they can do is they can upload the lab EDD directly from this platform, and it'll show up on the other side so that their clients can start, manipulating that data in the reports functionality.
And this would be, days after they receive the samples, they've run the analysis, now they have the data and they want to get it back to the client.
Yeah. So this is one way you can get your data back to your client. It's most clients prefer this way because they don't have to mess with the data after that. The data is already in a spot that they can start generating graphical reports on it. They'll start making maps. They can start making tables and graphs of that data. And that's really the end goal of what they want this data to be anyway, as opposed to just a PDF or a CSV of the data that doesn't really mean anything to anybody. So it's really easy. You just, generate a flat file that you can drag and drop here, and it'll automatically be attached on their side. Just let them know, hey, your data's in there. And then what you can also do is you can have access to all the previous chain of custodies that have happened on this project as well. See, we just did this one on February 19th here. I can download this PDF. I can save it. And it's going to take the place of the old one that I just downloaded because it's the same exact file that both of you and the client is downloading. You can see it's the same file here, and it gets updated automatically every time somebody accesses or finishes the chain. They have other options as well. They can add tests to their test library. So when you are a lab using the SampleServe platform, having an account, and other people sampling can choose your lab from the list of labs that are connected, when they're generating their work scope, they can specifically grab the tests that you offer, the specific test that you offer that is managed in your own test library. Now, this is the demo lab.
And I'll just point out a kind of a common example. Some labs, if you're doing like a BTEX, a VOC, they'll want 2 VOAs, 40 mil VOAs per sample. And other labs will want 3 VOAs. So whatever lab that, whatever the preference is for that particular lab who's got this lab portal, they'll be able to customize that list. Some, if they're doing a metals, they'll want a 250 mil poly bottle. Other labs only want a 125 poly. And they'll be able to customize all those bottle preferences and numbers of bottles to their own particular laboratory.
Yeah. So whatever type, whatever method you're doing, whatever type of bottle, how many bottles you need, what type of preservatives, you can control that and give access to your clients to choose that test when they're going out in the field and getting tests. That way, on your COC, you're never going to get a test that you don't do, or it's named wrong, it's configured wrong, there's an extra bottle, there's a missing bottle, something like that. It's always going to be that same thing that you offer. And you can offer this test in specific geographic locations. So you can say, how about our clients only in New York are going to have access to this specific BTEX test because it only happens in New York. And then we can change it so anybody in the US can grab this test and use this. So you can control which clients and which geographic locations have access to a specific test, because we know that tests are different in every single state because of different regulations.
And it's also categorized by media. So soil tests are different than groundwater tests, different than soil vapor tests. So.
Yeah. So at the bottom here, you choose which type of media this test applies to. You can make it so, hey, only people sampling drinking water are going to have access to this test. So when they're setting up a sampling work scope and you're under the drinking water media, you can say, all right, only let them sample for this type of bacteria, but when they're doing wastewater, we want a different type of test that's called BACT. You can have the same name, different media. So that's really nice for the laboratories. And then further down here is we have our checklist where we can customize these checklists so that when you're receiving samples at the laboratory on your lab app, these are the questions that are required for the lab techs to fill out and transfer that data to.
And the checklist is also customizable by media. So a soil checklist is going to be different than a drinking water checklist.
Yeah. So every single checklist is going to be different, because you're collecting different data points for each project.
Yeah.
Well, that's 120 exact, Russell. I think we hit it on the mark. Anything you can think of with the lab that we're not covering. There's a few more small aspects in here that we can take time and cover, but that's the gist of it.
Yeah, it's real simple to use. It's intuitive. Somebody can learn how to do this in about an hour. In labs like it because they could just log in and see what's coming in. They can see when things are scheduled. So it really kind of puts you in constant communication with a customer. And the customers are using it and they use it just because it helps facilitate their own work. And so they're more likely to use it, not just to make the lab's job easier, because it makes their job easier.
Right.
That's really the motivation of the field people and the project managers is it's just making their job easier, but the lab benefits off of that information as well. So
right.
That's really kind of the whole premise behind a multi-tenant platform is everybody has their own little kind of user interface, but everything's connected. So.
And it makes, it has to help every single person involved. And that's the whole point of the process.
Yep.
So
and we're constantly evolving here. There's not a day that goes by that we haven't made some small improvement, some big improvement. So,
and a customer just asked me today, they said, hey, we get these chain of custodies coming in digitally. We can access them at any time, multiple ways through email or going in here and, clicking on the projects and downloading them that way. They're like, what if we get an automated email that just says, hey, so-and-so just filled out a chain of custody. Now, typically that person in the field could be emailing the lab, that chain of custody themselves. Yeah. But if they're not doing that, if they're forgetting to send the email, we can just set up an automated notification to the laboratory that says, hey, John out in the field just finished sampling. He's got a digital chain of custody that he just created, and it's ready for you in the lab app right now.
In case they want to look at it. Yeah, right. And those are kind of alerts we're looking at. We're looking at, if there is a rush sample or a 24-hour hold or something like that, where they got a short hold time, where we'll create those alerts and those emails or text messages even, or even just, if you're logged in, it'll, give you a little bing. And then you'll be able to know that like something's coming in that needs your attention. So,
right.
Yeah. So those are kind of features that we're adding constantly and, just look for them. And probably the most important part is this lab app is absolutely free for laboratories to use. We do not charge laboratories anything. Yeah. So
we figured if you like it, you're going to make your clients use it. So that's what we want. So it makes sense. Use it.
Yeah, we're looking to labs as partners, and if we can make their life easier, then they'll hopefully advise their customers to use it as well. So,
yeah. All right. Well, next week is going to be about the reporting functionality. Uploading that lab data back onto the platform, either if it's through the client, the end user uploading that data themselves, or the lab themselves uploading it for the client. Doesn't matter. And we'll go through all the types of reporting functionality that we can generate. It's really easy. So we'll see you guys next week. Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good one.